Good afternoon. I'm Gina Terusio. This is the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting of the Moscow City Council. It's June 27th, 2022. At the table here with me is Councilor Lewis and Councilor Laughlin and our City Supervisor Bill Belknap. It is a bigger than usual crowd today. Welcome. Our first item is the approval of the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting minutes from May 23rd. Does that seem like years ago? Okay, that's approved on one side.
Yep, they look good.
Okay, approved. Second item is the disbursement report again for May 2022. Looks like Renee Tack is going to join us.
You're filling in for Sarah.
Okay.
She's a little under the weather. So as far as the major or May 22 expenses, total $2,607,786.28. The major expenditures were about 95% of that, or almost $2.5 million. Some of the larger expenses, unleaded gas for $26,497. The Moscow Food Bank, which was a ARPA profit grant agreement, $25,000. Payment of the DEQ water loan, $134,111. PEP annual distribution, $40,000. Small government enterprise agreement for $28,700. Spence Hardware for 2 new Cub Cadet mowers, $24,400. The South US 95 Water Sewer Extension, pay application number 2, $142,426. The road painter replacement for $68,868. And the South Lift Force Main replacement pay app number 4 for $66,424. Any questions on anything?
I do. Is the DEQ loan, is that a normal thing? Is there some historic context? I'm not familiar with.
So that's the $4.3 million state revolving loan fund for water system improvements. So that's the first disbursement. We have an authorization of additional $4.3 million that we have not drawn down yet, but that's just the debt service on that low interest loan, 10-year term.
Beautiful. And then my other, I don't know what a South Lift Force Main is. Is that related to like a pump station or something, or
to a sewer lift station? So the South Lift Station there that's located adjacent to the Fountain Industrial Park is the sewage lift station that picks up everything off Indian Hills, Frontier Edition, everything down the south end of town, and then it pumps it up over the South Main Hill to where it re-enters the gravity system. That force main, we've had several failures and leaks that have occurred over the years. So this is a replacement of that line that's been in the works now for about a year. And this is probably getting close to the final pay application for that project.
I love it. And then my last question, I'm wondering if it may make sense, since we've got Gina here with PEP, if it would make sense. I would love to see like a presentation from PEP about what the years looked like. And so I don't know if it makes sense for us to like pull that piece as a separate item so that we're not seeing a conflict of interest for you and it can be a separate vote. I don't know what the recommendation would be but I'd love to, since I'm new in the game, I'd love to see an overview of what PEP's been doing.
Sure, we can schedule that. And that was initially invoiced for, I think, for October 1. That was for this current fiscal year, and apparently never got paid last fall. So this is bringing the city up to current. And so but that was just our annual contribution.
Okay.
But certainly we can work on that as well, getting a report to the council.
Love it. Those were my questions for the big ones. Maureen, I don't know if you've got anything.
No, it seems to me that would make sense during the budget period of time to have the discussion versus as an individual item, and it can just be raised there.
Yeah, if it's meant to be payment for services already rendered. Yeah, then I am comfortable approving it as is, assuming we'll be able to hear an overview closer to budget season.
I think the board will have an announcement soon.
Okay, right on.
Okay. Okay, I think we've exhausted questions. Renee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Okay, our next item is the Milton Arthur Park Playground Pad and Pathway bid result and contract award. Who makes these titles up? Todd Drage.
That was me.
You did? That was your 26-word title?
I did, and that's about the extent of my help on this project. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew because he did the design and actually put together the
Awesome.
solicitation.
I like the honesty in that approach. Just give it a flashy title so we
That's
all
it.
get excited
That's it.
about
That was
it
my
and
contribution.
then pass it on
Yeah.
in case we don't like the presentation.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we have the Milton Arthur Playground Pad and Pathway. So this is just a general location of where this pad and pathway will be placed. It's over on Granville and Sutton Street on the southeastern part of the city. So back in February, David Schott had 7 different options for playground equipment, and we came up with option number 6 was the most popular. And so this is just kind of a review of what we've already discussed. This is the option 6 of what's going to be, which is purchased and going to be placed. This is the general layout design for the pad and pathway. It's just a simple continuous radius approach onto a hexagon type of pad with 3 different bench pads, as you can see. So there'll be 3 different areas for seating. It's an 8-foot pathway, and so it will be accessible from parks for vehicle access for maintenance purposes. I apologize, it's not the greatest lighting and it's hard to see, but it's just a standard concrete
I
pad.
was just looking where the seats were and I couldn't quite.
Oh,
see,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
sure.
see I got them
It's
totally
early.
there. Just
It's
needed to
early.
put that in there. So that's,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
there
see.
is.
It was fine. I got
Bench
it.
pads are over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, this will be an all nice tiled playground pad. So it's about 3,200 square feet, so decent size. We did have, so this is just the project budget. So 100,000 for the playground, the tiles, and then we had about 92,000 allocated for the concrete pad and pathway. So through a decent amount of effort, we were able to nail down a few contractors. So we weren't able to actually get the project bid through a single contractor. We had to split it up. So a lot of them want to do excavation work. A lot of them want to do concrete work. And so we ended up finding a few different contractors. So Yeoman's Excavation Services, as part of their contract, is going to do everything except the concrete. So they won't do any concrete work. They'll do the excavation, the rock laying, the grading, everything, the prep work. And then Schmidt Projects will come in and they'll do the actual playground and pathway, and they'll finish it and do all the reinforcement, et cetera. So we were able to split those out. We adjusted the contracts accordingly. And with a combined construction cost of $85,250, we can see that we're about $6,000 under budget. So I think that's for today's is very, very good. So with that said, I'd recommend that both Yeoman's and Smith Projects LLC get the contract for the amount of $85,250 with a potential change order of not to exceed 10%.
Maureen, you had a question?
One, when I read this, I appreciated the creativity or the foresight to say, let's divide it up, because that seems like it's much easier. And besides the fact it came in with less money. And so that was a great idea. Now, maybe this doesn't apply to other projects, but I'm just in the middle of a house construction project right now at my house. And from when I did mine to the neighbors doing the exact same size addition, they got heard from the contract person that it's double the price, because now half the cement that we normally get or we expected in isn't coming in. So they just jacked up the prices. So I'm just curious. I mean, that's just my own living, like 300 square feet. And so I was just curious on whether or not that's going to be a problem. And had you heard that before?
I think it's just a continuous problem as we continue to see these either whether it's labor shortages or material procurement issues or whatever it is. I mean, I don't want to say it's a flip of the coin, but you kind of have to get it out there and see what the response is. And so when we first advertised this, we didn't get any.
Mhm.
I mean, we called, and that's kind of why we had to kind of say, hey, like, would you
What
be
would you
willing
say
to do
yes
this
to?
work?
We should
Yeah.
point that out. We solicited this in a semi-formal bid
Like we always
for the
do.
whole thing, like we always do. And then
Yeah.
because we weren't able to find it, we were able to say we split out for just the concrete. And
So
concrete contractors are never so busy they don't want to do any other work.
So when they give you an estimate, are they pretty stuck to that estimate then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a contract.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I just didn't want it to double right on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
We've
No,
got
it's-
this nice little spot that has a big hole in it, and
Right.
No
all our
concrete.
dogs can go play in it, so no.
All right. So in these moments where there is a contractor doing the prep work and a contractor doing the concrete work, do we have troubles with that?
So we're gonna hold a pre-construction meeting and we're gonna get both contractors on site and,
Beautiful.
from what we've discussed with them, they're pretty clear on the scope of work that they want to do, so.
We adjusted the scope of work for this exact situation.
Okay, awesome.
It wouldn't be our preference to have to do this just because you can run into, hey, they didn't prep it, they didn't grade it at the right level,
Right.
right? That's always the finger pointing. But I'm sure this will work fine for this project.
Right on.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you.
guys.
I move that we approve it and it goes on the consent agenda.
All right.
I'm good with that.
Okay, our fourth item is the Mountain View Restroom Improvements Bid Award, Idaho Community Development Block Grant, Dimitri Makratsakis and Elisa Anderson. I only practiced 12 times. before I said that.
Sounds great.
So I'll just kind of give you a historic on the project and the status of kind of the overall grant, where we are right now with that. So the Mountain View bathroom remodel is one part of 3 parts of an award that we received for $225,000 from the Idaho Community Development Block Grant under the Parks Program. And we received that grant, it was in 21. Early in 21.
Like, oh my God.
We had previously put the 2 parts of the project out to bid last fall and then again this spring, and it didn't work out either time. So the bathroom installation at Indian Hills Park, and then an ADA parking spot and a path to the restroom, and then also a path system connecting the 2 parking lots at Mountain View are included in this award along with this project. And so we're still, and we may have to do what our prior presenters did and see if we can split up that
Okay.
project, but we've got the restroom waiting to be delivered from Boise now. And Tony Tenney was up a few weeks ago from the Idaho Department of Commerce. He's our representative for District 2. He did say that Department of Commerce rolled a lot of their CARES funds over into the block grant program for parks, which was an eligible use, and shared with us, and actually the day he was here, I think was the bid opening for this project, that they have, that we could possibly apply for another 25,000. So we'll be looking at that also with where this bid came in. But so this is one part of those, of the 3 parts, and I'll let Dimitri share with you the, he put together the design and bid the project.
So on the Mountain View Restroom Project, it's a very simple scope of work. What we are doing is we are taking an existing men's and women's facility, and we are converting that into 4 unisex spaces that will be ADA accessible and compliant with grab rails, a little bit wider of doors. And then one of the units, it's the northeast unit of the 4, is going to be open year round and is going to be heated.
Cool. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yep. And in addition to that, we've been working with Parks to incorporate some of their requests into this design. One of them is going to be access control on like an automated system, so they can kind of fine tune when the restrooms open, unlock, and lock. And then the other one that David Shaw really emphasized as a priority was a baby changing station in one of them, so that it could be, you know, used by families.
Yeah.
So that's the scope of work. Really, besides that, just cutting in the new doors, rerouting the plumbing and stuff like that, it should be a fairly small scope of work and a pretty simple project.
Sure.
So the external brick building outside, it stays the same. It's inside that we just,
Yep, with one exception, and that is cutting in new entrances, going from 2 into 4.
I have to just put an applaud in there for the fact that one of those is open year round, because I mean, there's people that still walk on that pathway. They do all those things. And the idea of having, I've been there, and the parks are all, it's all closed down.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, really, this isn't a good idea. So thank you for including that in the process.
Definitely. As a user of the park myself, I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Any
no concerns. I
questions?
grew up over there, and same boat as Maureen, walking the dog and stuff. It's great to have it year round.
One other question I have is the 21,000 we got before the grant in 2021. Is there like a statute of limitations on usage of that? I mean, do we have a certain period of time that if we don't use it soon, we're going to lose it?
I've applied for an extension.
Okay.
So we'll have another year. We'd like to get it done this fall, but if not, we can have until next year to get it done. But we'd certainly like to find a way to get it done this fall if we can.
When you were so good on the other stuff, you could like just find these contractors out there that want to make this happen for us, can't you?
We had to kind of pre-position that, make sure that we made, phone calls and let them know it was coming down the pipeline.
Just kidding.
It's kind of hard to get coverage on some of our projects, as I'm sure you guys are aware.
Maybe
So-
Great job.
maybe the farmers market gals will let me borrow one of their suits and I can stand out on the corner.
I may need to take some time with that too. On another.
So,
Well-
and then there was just the same as the other contracts with approval to have change orders not to exceed 10%.
I move to approve that and put it on the consent agenda.
I'm on board. Yep.
Okay, sweet. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is the Children Pedestrian Safety Grant Bid Award. Elisa and Nate, sir, where are you? Oh, we get a
Right.
presentation right on,
Wow.
Always.
always.
And apparently I was also the only one that didn't get the memo about the covers on these presentations.
Yeah.
So, thanks, guys. So we've talked about this quite a bit. We've been here a few times. This is the final, well, almost final step. We're getting to the bid award. So, and I'm smiling, so that's a good thing. This is just a little bit of a recap of the Children Pedestrian Safety Grant. We applied, we were awarded $250,000 to address children pedestrian safety on the local system. And so it also had to be considered a maintenance project. We ended up selecting the D and Mountain View intersection for curb extensions to help improve some of the crossability for the students. And then we went to the B and Cleveland intersection to provide additional drop-off areas. So we advertised the project May 21st and 28th, and we opened the bids June 7th. We received one bid in the amount of $278,494, and that was only slightly above the engineer's estimate of $270,492.10. So anything, as you know, this was a $250,000 grant award, so the additional monies will come from the sidewalk program accumulation, but we're prepared for this, and this is close enough that we definitely wanted to recommend an award.
So this is state money, comes from the surplus funds. And we had one other of these a few years back, which we did some of the bike lane work on 3rd Street with. We got a check in the mail up front, and we had to file a final report. And it's state money, so there's not a lot of monitoring, but it's just an easy project to do, so.
Good.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So the state award was for 250,000, and so we would be paying the 28,000.
500 approximately,
Yeah.
plus a potentially 10% change orders.
And I'm guessing that's nothing of serious concern from our funds, right? That's peanuts for what this project is
Correct. We had estimated
accomplishing.
about 350,000 in the CIP, just assuming we might see higher costs. This came in
Right on.
actually lower than we were anticipating.
And then my other question, because I keep driving by that intersection for the new drop-off zone, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see it go in. But I want to make sure, I'm not sure what Albright's plans would be to communicate with the neighbors, but I want to make sure that we as the city are checking in with those folks. And the nice part is it's small windows of time, right, where you'd be seeing increased traffic. I just don't want, I'm hoping we're doing some outreach to make sure they're not caught off guard by the change.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have kind of a standard outreach that we do with all of our programs. So we start with a mailer, and then we do door hangers, and the people that are directly affected get kind of a personal visit from the
Awesome.
techs as they're doing survey and just doing like the location marks and things like that.
I love it.
So-
I'm glad it's more than one touch point.
And
So
press releases also, and the projects are all on the website also.
awesome. Okay.
I just had a question, and it looked to me, looking at the picture, that the sidewalk is actually on the west side.
Of the Cleveland B Street.
Mhm.
So it is.
That's where the pathway is.
because the owner of the house right next door to that has dogs in our yard periodically. So that would just be something to keep in mind when you're talking to the neighbors.
Okay.
Actually, I think there's dogs
To
on
it,
both sides
to it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there are dogs
north
all
and
over.
south, or
Got
east
it.
and west.
Yeah, we've most of the conversations have been had with this neighbor to the south, but Eric Peterson, my technician, has been out there, and Cameron have been out there talking to the neighbors for both of these intersections.
Good.
So thank you. I say we move and to approve this, accept the bid. Oh, which one am I on now? Let me do that.
Yep, number 5, you want to go ahead and put it on consent?
Yes, consent.
Yep, consent sounds good.
Guys, thank you.
Nice
so
job,
much.
team.
Hey, we're killing it today, guys. Thank you.
And West Round. Our next item is the City of Moscow Bee City USA affiliate proposal. David Schott. What an interesting title. Moscow Bee City. Yeah, I do.
What's the buzz about, David? No one groaned. I'll take it as a win.
I'm a straight guy. I'll
A
do
lot
that.
of the little committees, we've been talking about this for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Well, thank you for having me this afternoon. I certainly appreciate it. So this is City of Moscow Bee City USA affiliate proposal. And so just a little background, this is from their website. Bee City's mission is to enhance habitat for all pollinators with a focus on native species. It works to galvanize our communities to sustain pollinators, in particular, more than 36,000 or 3,600 species of native bees in this country. Providing native plants, providing nest sites, and reducing the use of pesticides. So what are our commitments if we go forward with this? Pollinator habitat on public land by increasing the abundance of native plants and providing nest sites. So we're already doing a little bit of this. If I can find my notes. Oh, we've got Harvest Park down here here. This was a planting project there at Harvest Park as well, where, hey, the intent of the park is edible fruits and nuts and trees and shrubs and all that good stuff, but there's a really steep dogleg on this park. So maybe that's a great area for pollinators, right? And so in May, we had a project with PCI out there where we planted a bunch of stuff for pollinators. So Burma Creekside Park, we've got our sensory garden on the left, and then in the bottom center is our butterfly garden. While these aren't directly pollinator specific when they were built, they make great pollinator areas. Then we also have the City Yscape program, which again isn't directed at pollinators. It's more for water conservation, which is part of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update in 2019. But that type of environment is really good for pollinators as well, especially when you use native materials. So, oh, I'm sorry. Reduce the use of pesticides. We're already doing this. We got our pesticide-free park this year in Anderson Frontier Park. We currently don't apply herbicides in our playground areas with the engineered wood fiber. We also have those 2 planters down at Burma Creekside Park that we haven't applied pesticides for quite some time. And then again, as I referred to Harvest Park earlier, we haven't put anything down on that as far as a herbicide in quite some time. So more commitments, incorporated pollinator conscious practices into city policies and plans. This would be a great chapter in our upcoming Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. That it's a 5-year plan done in 2019, so that puts us out in 2024. Host each year that I was asked to speak at last year. I think we'll have some involvement with that. And then publicly acknowledge Bee City USA affiliation with signs and an online presence. So similar to Tree City USA, I'm thinking about putting Bee City USA on probably those same posts at each entryway in town. So at least north, east, and west. So what are the requirements? We need a resolution that we're considering today. That needed to be pre-approved by Bee City USA, which was completed. We also wanted to go through the Parks and Recreation Commission, which they did on May 26th and recommended approval. And then here we are today at the Public Works Finance Committee and Council later. So the nitty gritty with the requirements, we need to form a subcommittee. So this will be formed underneath the Parks and Recreation Commission, which we recently changed city code to allow for the subcommittee under the Parks and Recreation Commission. So that's been complete. I have regular meetings. These will be open meetings. I'm envisioning quarterly. They'll be required to have a chair, local government sponsor. We're recommending the Parks and Recreation Department. We need to provide a staff liaison to the Bee City USA subcommittee. That would be my position, the Parks and Facilities Manager. And one of the things I'm excited for the first year for our subcommittee, if this is approved, is the pollinator list. I think that'll be fun to create. And we've got some subcommittee and know this stuff inside and out. So I'm excited to learn from them. So the fiscal impacts. So the fees each year are due in February. Based on our population, it's going to be $300 a year. And then I'm envisioning entryway signage being about $300. They provide the graphics, but we need to produce the signs. And then potential costs was any participation in the Pollinator Summit, and then any projects we might have coming up would need to be budgeted for. So, with that, staff's recommending approval of becoming a Bee City USA affiliate.
So I know there's like 3,500 different kinds of bees. I think it's really important. The bees that don't sting you as much. Because when you first say Bee City, you know, my thought is, you know, coming home and little bees going up and down my kids' arms. And so, you know, which is not a great idea. And so I think helping distinguish what bees we're promoting and how this isn't going to have every backyard having bees running around there so people can't do outdoor eating. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Is that
Yeah.
true? Is it true that we can actually distinguish when we make a bee city and these plants bring those good bees that don't sting you when you eat dinner outside?
I think the Bee City USA it encompasses more than just like your honeybees. It's going to include all your pollinators, the moths, butterflies, things like that. When I think of a bee 20 years ago, I think of one that stings you, right? And maybe this is an educational piece. When I think of bees now, I think of something good. I think of wasps as something that's going to sting you.
Right.
And so, and I'm trying to teach my kids, you know, that's a good bee. It's a honeybee. That's a yellow jacket.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to make that distinction, but anyways.
Yeah, that could be a cool opportunity for like an education thing or tabling it, you know, the commission tabling at farmers market and stuff. And I think a lot of it comes to public education, and the timing works out great because if there are projects or pollinator garden opportunities, we're right. Your subcommittee will be able to meet and give that recommendation for you to incorporate into next year so we can hit the ground running, which I really like. The other thought I had was something else about public education, and I'm blanking. Oh, there's a couple of organizations in town that will help you relocate swarms and things like that too. And so I'm excited for us to also maybe learn from them. We had a swarm in a chimney, which was a surprise. And it was nice to know that there was someone that we could go to but I also don't want to add more to your plate, but the idea of helping connect our people with existing resources and trusted community resources and having Parks and Rec help own that relationship or something like that's pretty cool. I'm excited. And for $300 a year, I'm extra excited. And so I would move that we do the thing. Recommend approval of the draft resolution designating the city of Moscow as a Bee City USA affiliate onto our agenda tonight.
I think we all agree.
Consent
with that.
agenda tonight.
And we can do consent?
Yes.
Okay. All right, David, stay
Thank
put.
you. I will. I'm going to switch out some slides here real quick.
Our next item is Harvest Park Management Plan Proposal. So we're anxious to see what you got going there. I will say that the Tree Commission saw this already because we're special.
Because you
Because
get
it's the Tree
excited about it.
Commission. Because they rock.
All right, thank you. This is the Harvest Park Management Plan proposal. So just a little background. This is a pretty large plan, and so I'm just pretty much going to get a little introduction and then kind of hit the highlights for everybody. So Harvest Park, I think as noted earlier, is down south near the new police station on Southview Avenue in Indian Hills Drive in the Indian Hills 8th Edition neighborhood. It was acquired to be developed as an edible forest with food-bearing trees, shrubs, and other flora. So the just over 4-acre site was historically an active wheat field. Received initial interest in this came through the Tree Commission. So So the purpose of Harvest the community with a public food forest with a strong emphasis on outreach, education, and about taking pride in growing food. So that's my little one there, and a planting project last year. And I always joke around that I use pictures of my kids because I don't need their permission. So. So the vision for the park, and council has heard this before, is a long-term dynamic landscape. This unique space is intended to provide educational opportunities and be an example for a community of the stewardship of public food forest. The unique space will create a sense of place and community pride for the city of Moscow for generations to come. Trees take a long time, so we thought, hey, let's get some trees started last year. So. Just a little history. So after 35 nominations, the council named the property Harvest Park on 2019 of March. They also approved the conceptual plan for the park in September of 2019. So the Harvest Park Management Plan highlights, this is really, it was really a lot of people that knew a lot about this stuff. So I don't know everything, and I'm not going to pretend to, but I know how to get the right people in the right room. So Mark Heinlein is with our Parks and Recreation Commission that's been really involved in Harvest Park. Deborah Berman is on the board of Rural Roots, and then Zena Hartung is also on our Tree Commission. So the management plan goes through a series of guiding principles. These are just, hey, if something comes through, this is the direction we're going. So we talk about equity and stewardship, education, community outreach, the development of this management plan, and then, the elephant in the room is the maintenance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Ever since we received this property was to minimize the burden to park staff to maintain the park. And so we're proposing the creation of the Harvest Park Subcommittee to assist the city in management and operations of the park. And then kind of a level under that would be the creation of the Friends of Harvest Park. That would be more on your volunteer operational side of things, boots on the ground, if you will. And the Tree Commission will be the lead commission for the Harvest Park Subcommittee. We also changed city code recently to allow for that as well. So this is just kind of a flow chart committee. The subcommittee, oh boy, that's pretty small. Reports to the Tree Commission, implements the management plan, and consults with the staff liaison for management and oversight of donors and volunteers. And then there's the staff liaison, which is my position, the Parks and Facilities Manager. And then the Friends of Harvest Park are really going to be the boots on the ground, kind of organizing, planting, workshop, something on the park, the boots on the ground. Community volunteers, participants, and people are going to go out and pick their first apple off a tree and eat it, which is pretty special, I think. Yeah. We do talk about some of the highlights here with harvest limits. Right now, we're going with first come, first serve. The city reserves the right to change that if running into issues. We're asking people to only take as much as you can consume. We've got a dog policy allowed on the leash on the pathways, but we are asking the dogs to stay on the pathways. Pesticide use policy, little or no pesticide use, utilizing integrated pest management strategies. One of the strategies is the underlying root problem of the pest, not so much the treating of the pest itself. And so good, healthy, strong soil is a really good thing to be working on in the long run. So pollinators, this is going to be an ideal park to showcase this importance. We just looked at the Bee City USA. And then the plans talks about soils, which before I kind of started in on this, I know soil was good and a little bit about it, but there is a lot to it.
Yeah.
And a good, healthy soil is, it'll lead to much less maintenance down the road as well. So how are we going to do this? So we're looking at a planting room adoption process. So I've got 4 management zones, and this kind of lends itself to the topography of the site. So we got zone 1, here's the bowl. We got zone 2 is the hillside. Zone 3 is the dog leg. And then the periphery is zone 4. So everything kind of around the edges here. And so the thought was people could adopt a planting room, essentially, whether they want to volunteer time, donate material, donate funds, and adopt that planting room. And that would be theirs to take care of. And it kind of lends itself to it with the nature of the, I'll call it switchbacks of the trails, due to the topography, it kind of makes natural planting rooms and areas, so. So what would be required is they would fill out a park donor and volunteer application. That'd be considered by the Harvest Park subcommittee. And then if they end up going forward with a planting room, we've got a volunteer donor agreement that's in your packet as well.
Are those two donor and volunteer?
Yes. Let me get this right. So once they fill out the application and it's approved by the committee, the subcommittee, it'll be attachment A in the donor volunteer agreement.
Okay, so do they, if they would just like to volunteer, they don't have to donate to do that? Like if they just want to come and weed in one of the zones, they don't necessarily have to be a donor.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
I want to make sure I had that
Just
correct.
the title is, makes it look like they go together,
Right.
you know, donor and volunteer
And
application.
I guess it makes
So-
sense in the agreement for like the legalese. It seems like it makes sense to have them grouped together, but I see what you're saying because that application makes me think that I would need to be a donor and volunteer.
In my mind, there's two things. If you want to
Right.
be the donor and volunteer to essentially adopt a planting room, you would go through the full process. If you're coming out for a volunteer project to clean up litter,
They don't have to
weeding,
fill anything
then
like
it would
this
just be a
out.
volunteer
Gotcha.
type thing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Can a volunteer
question.
actually adopt a section of it and say, I just want to like take care of that one, but I don't have any money to give into it? Can they do that?
I think we'd probably go through the full process and they would just be the volunteer for that.
I assume somebody else donated money for the plants.
And maybe they can find somebody to go together or something like
Okay.
that. So
I'll keep going.
Is it
I gotta,
I think that's about the end of this. As Councilor Tercio mentioned earlier, the Tree Commission reviewed and recommended approval during their May 3rd meeting. And then the Parks and Recreation Commission, I figure it was a park, recommended approval during their May 26th meeting of this year. So
I have one last question, and I'm happy approving it as is, but I did want to posit the question. I've got my Farmers Market Commission hat on. I really like the idea of, take as much as you can, only take what you need. And I don't want to regulate for a potential problem that may never happen, but I do wonder, I don't want someone to have the cherry trees develop into their avenue for making money at the farmer's market or something like that. And so I was kind of going through the management plan, and I searched for the word sell, but I don't see anything coming up there. So I don't want to lose sight of that. If we have the opportunity to kind of have that conversation before there's actual fruits of our labor.
fair.
And maybe we do want to allow it, but just figuring out how we address it before it's an issue.
Councilor Lewis, under our bagging limits, we do address that.
Oh,
There's no commercial sales.
Oh, commercials, what I should
Don't we couple the farmer's market also does site visits, correct? For some of that. So that may circumvent that as well, unless they're,
Right.
by the dark of the morning prior to.
And if there's a
Heading out.
surplus, as we mentioned in the management plan, I need to research this out, but we'll reach out to nonprofits, farmers market.
Backyard
So
harvest. that
things
kind of
aren't
thing.
going to waste.
Good.
So I was more concerned about somebody just coming in and raiding it, and thinking, I love Bing cherries. And so that tree's going, I'm going to be there at 4:00 in the morning and I'm going to take all the cherries and I'll eat them all. I'm not even going to sell them. And so I'm more concerned about just human beings raiding it. And that's more my concern. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the education and outreach piece comes in, because I struggle with that a little bit too, but
But at the same time, I also thought about it when you were talking. It made me think about the idea of community gardens. And everybody has their little plot. And it's kind of very similar. You had the A, B, C, D down there. It's almost kind of the community garden theory that this is my section and I'm going to maintain this section. It doesn't mean I can't eat off of somebody else's section, but it's my section, right?
Right. And this is a new concept that, hey, I've adopted this. I've planted things for the public good, knowing that somebody can come pick the cherries and enjoy those. It's not a community card where this is my plot. I'm going to harvest this lettuce. This is for the community good. I think that's an education piece. And I think the management plan is a good point of that education piece. If somebody comes in and raids all the cherries, right now we it's first come, first serve. Take what you can eat. If we reserve the right to be more
Change it.
stringent if needed.
But I love that idea of actually a belief in the community and that it's the community good and the community will treat it well. And if that is not the case, then we'll respond to it then. But I think there's the openness of it. Remember in the days when grocery stores used to have like pick up your latte on the way and then do your stuff and pay for it on the way out? Well, they don't do that anymore. But, it's just that same idea. You adapt accordingly. And I think it's good to start out with a good faith belief in every human being.
Agreed.
Well, shall we recommend approval?
Yes, I love
do
this
it.
one.
Okay. And I think we could go
On the consent. agenda.
consent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you for all your work. What a great day of resolution.
It's always good to end with the tree commission, anything with the trees. Okay, so that is the end of our formal agenda. There is a report, however, about the cadet program proposal report with Captain Anthony Dollinger. Like to come up and tell us some good stuff.
Sure thing.
Good.
Can't fit in this chair.
Put those sidearms in sideways.
More difficult to get out of it. So yes, this is more conceptual at this point.
Okay.
We're working diligently to make it a reality. But bottom line is, well, and this might come as a shock to you, but we're having tough time hiring people. And so we're trying to start thinking outside the box a little bit. Years and years and years ago, we had a very robust reserve program, and it was a way to get your foot in the door. That was back in the day when we had dozens and dozens of people applying for positions. Well, we don't have that anymore. And then this kind of came about because for the first time ever, we had a uptick in college age folks asking us for things like internships and trying to get their foot in the door and at least experience the career. And so that's where this cadet idea came from. We're very lucky to have Washington State University nearby. I've been working with them.
Good.
They've had a program since the 80s. It's extremely well done. So we're taking a lot of that knowledge and experience from that and trying to mold it for our department. And so more or less, like I said, we're working closely with the University of Idaho. They're very excited, especially the criminology department, to be working with us on this. And we're just really hoping to not only have another avenue of outreach with the university and college students in general, but hopefully maybe grabbing a couple of them that want to stay here and work for us versus going elsewhere. Because of course we're combating a lot of incentives that are getting pushed out. A lot of in some of our neighboring states, we just can't compete with their pay.
Right.
And so we've got to try to overcome that somehow.
I have direct experience with the cadet program over at WSU. And he is my nephew is a full out police officer now and loved all of the seemingly unending hours he put in as a cadet. Loved it. So I applaud you for working with them. It's a great program.
Thank you.
So,
Well, it makes sense if it can offload some of what you need in terms of training time, right? If I'm sure there's limits to what you're actually able to train someone on at a cadet level, but giving someone an idea before they're fully in your charge, and if it ends up being something that they don't want to pursue as a career, I mean, in some ways, right? It's great first exposure and hopefully saves you some heartache on both sides of the equation if it does work out or if it doesn't.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm not familiar with this program, but the closest analogy I have is the fire department and the volunteer firefighters. And there they get free housing. Is there some incentive that they have to come participate in this program?
Yeah, that's why we've been working directly with the University of Idaho. We're hoping, honestly, if this program takes off in the years to come, we can open up to other universities and colleges around the area, like LCSC,
sure.
New St. Andrews, that kind of thing. But right now, we're just kind of focusing with the university because they're the ones that came forward with a lot of the folks that are interested. But like I said, I've been working with the criminology department, and they are going to have the benefit of getting college credit.
Okay,
Cool.
that's the advantage.
That's huge.
And will they get that college credit and not have to pay for it? Or do they have to pay for it, get the college credit, which then will give them a foot into getting a police officer?
Well, my understanding is the way in which they get that college credit is if just signing up for another class. So their tuition would be covering whatever they're paying for college for that class. and then that goes towards their major and their degree. And then at the same time, it's kind of a melding of an internship and job experience. So we would hopefully, such as the WSU program, by the time these folks are out of the program, they are so well informed and knowledgeable and experienced that if they do enter into law enforcement, hopefully with us, that their training goes very smoothly, their academy goes very smoothly. They're already just up and running and ready to go. So that's a huge benefit for them and for us.
I have one more question. So this past legislative session, there was a bill that passed that if someone is in WWAMI and they do the medical exchange and they don't stay in Idaho to go to a WWAMI program in Idaho and don't stay there, you have to pay back the difference in tuition that WWAMI saved you. And I understand the reason behind it, but I am trying to think through pros and cons. Because in my mind, if even if we have kids who come to U of I and choose to stay through the cadet program, but they end up going to Lewiston or somewhere else, I still feel like that's a win because we're still addressing a workforce shortage in public safety. And so I guess I don't know if we're to that point yet where we need to be thinking about brain drain or the risk of people going through the program and then this initial introduction to the industry and then leaving to a different town or going out of state. So and I'm sure WSU has talked about it too, right? But
yeah, absolutely. And quite to be quite frank, we're all experiencing that anyway.
yeah,
We're having officers that are getting hired, working for a couple of years, and then due to family issues or a better opportunity, they're leaving anyway.
right.
And so there certainly wouldn't be any kind of a negative from us. It wouldn't be no contractual obligation to stay with us, that kind of a thing.
Because it's for the greater good is kind of where I'm thinking.
Correct.
Okay.
And that was one thing I was
That's where I
impressed
was
about the
feeling
WSU program. I went over there and saw their final scenarios. And they literally had representatives from all over the state of Washington, from all different agencies coming, not only to proctor and assist,
Nice.
but it's a recruitment tool. They were there looking for the best of the best and handing out business cards and saying, hey, why don't you come give us a look? So I think that was great.
And maybe I heard it in Haley's question, but we aren't paying, we being the police department or the city, aren't paying any of the tuition. The answer is if, you pay the same if you take 12 credits or if you take 18 credits.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're not actually putting any money into it. So there's no money that we have to pay back if the person goes to New York after us.
Correct. The only overhead we are looking at is we already have a reserve budget line that we have tried to keep. And the idea is to roll over those monies into this new program, basically just retitling it. And those monies would just be used for equipment and maybe some basic training. Our man hours, as far as or training hours, I should say, it's a little bit of a burden, but it won't be much.
It just makes sense that you get those police officers there and you make it look like this is the best job in the world. There we go.
Well, I'm a little bit biased. It is the best job in the world.
I know that when my nephew was looking at jobs, the job at the Pullman PD was a big deal. He was pretty excited about that. So I can tell you it was a definite recruiting tool. And he would sign up for his cadet hours first and then see how he could fit all the other college stuff in. So very, very good thing. And I'm excited about this.
Yes, we are too.
prospect.
The idea is we're going to start out small, and we've kind of hit the fast forward on this. That's why we wanted to come bring it to you, and it's not finalized. But we had so many folks come up to us and ask for this opportunity. We just felt like we didn't want to wait and potentially lose some good people for this program.
How
It's my
exciting.
understanding, I think that Lewis and Clark does have a criminology department, which some people in the sociology define as a cop shop, which just teaches you about being a police officer. And so I don't know if you've looked into them or not, but I think that's when I was doing work for sociology, that's what they were telling
Yes,
me.
we actually have a couple of officers that graduated from there,
Oh, cool.
and we've over the years tried to outreach with them as well. So
Excellent.
So what
Excellent.
do you need from us other than
Great idea.
support? Yes, cheerleading and support when budget time comes around for.
yeah,
for
that's
whatever
it. I mean,
schools.
obviously, if this thing really takes off and we expand it to the size over the years of what WSU is doing, we probably
Wow.
potentially need more funding for equipment,
Okay.
those types of things. But that could be certainly years and years down the road.
We have a great grant writer here too, and so she's
Yes, we
gonna
do.
help us.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, so the goal today was just actually bring the council, make sure you're updated and informed of the program
Love it.
because they do want to launch that this fall.
Go for it, Brian.
And so you'll see information activities occurring around that.
Awesome. Keeps up to date. That's exciting.
All right, thank you.
And you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, I got
All
it.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You did
So does
well.
it make more sense to have him come and speak to the whole council, or does it make more sense to come out of Public Works? Because when is everybody else going to hear that unless we share that?
We'll share information with the remaining
Okay,
rest of the
great.
council as well. Yeah.
Good.
Any staff reports, Bill?
Not today.
Okay, awesome. All right, our meeting, how about, shall we adjourn?
We adjourned. We'll see
Okay.
you all back at 7 o'clock.